Hey, how's it going there, folks? Welcome back here to a Tuesday. It is the Earthmaster here on this end, about 11:51 a.m. here, California time. Again, Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024. We'll take a look here at the cloud cover percentage across the area of the totality line here, as far as Eclipse goes, in a few minutes. Looking at earthquake activity overnight, definitely stirred up here across the Mariana Trench. A pretty large earthquake coming in right at the subduction zone here, about 10 kilometers here, defaulted level for a 6.2. That earthquake coming in about 3 o'clock this morning. No tsunami associated with that earthquake, and this comes after some further movement yesterday. A little bit of activity stirring up north here across the northwestern corner of the Pacific Plate. This 5.9 from yesterday there, just about ready to drop off the map as far as that 24-hour threshold goes. But definitely seen some larger activity, 6.2. Also a region down here across New Zealand showing some activity as well, with a couple fours stirring up down here. We have been expecting this area to move. A couple fours, I guess that's, somewhat minor to almost moderate movement down here across the New Zealand area. It is filling in slightly. Let's go over and check out the GeoNet servers here and see what we got. In the last, let me make sure I refresh this here real quick. 2 hours ago, looks like that 4.5 coming into the South Island, New Zealand area, just off the Alpine Fault, about 5 kilometers deep. That makes it a very shallow earthquake, and I'm sure that was felt over the area of South Island, even maybe up around the Wellington area. Did get about 58 reports here of feeling some earthquake activity, and that's just one 4-pointer. Here within the last 24 hours, we did see another 4-pointer, 4.6. This is going to be there yesterday, but technically here today, these time zones are confusing. But either way, this is still within the last 24 hours. Seen a 4.6. So a pretty decent day of earthquake activity out there across the New Zealand region. There's a 3.7, a little bit further up along the plate boundary. If you look at these earthquakes here, they're kind of following the plate boundary itself. And some a little bit more shallow up here across North Island, but some of the South Island stations here following this plate boundary. Definitely something to watch here. I know I've been calling for some larger earthquake activity out there, and it's getting up there. The magnitudes and the multitude of quakes are getting larger, it seems like, with each day. There's the most recent 4-pointer there coming in just a couple hours ago. Showed up pretty nicely across the seismograph stations. And as you can see, if we look down here across the South Island station here, where this red dot is, there's those 4s and 3-pointer that stirred up within the last 24 hours. This is a 24-hour map. So things are somewhat active out there across the New Zealand area. We'll continue to watch that. We've seen a lot of adjustment going on north and south here of the New Zealand area in the last month or so. Even in the last week, there's been some decent activity, including 5.9 down in the Balleny Islands area. We really got to go back the last 30 days and see the amount of movement that's taken place around New Zealand. We've seen a swarm of activity out here around the Macquarie Island area, just south here off this plate boundary. That's a pretty decent amount of earthquake activity out here in the last 30 days. And I'm sure there's probably more earthquakes than this. This only covers the 4.5 and above from the USGS, but quite a few 4s, some 5s, and even some 6s in there in the last 30 days. New Zealand is starting to fill in with these 4-pointers we've seen here today. Up north, a large amount of earthquake activity. So a lot of deeper movement quakes, a lot of surface adjustment along the Kermadec Trench as well. It only makes sense for New Zealand to fill in, and that's kind of what we're seeing here in the last 24 hours. We'll continue to watch that area for some subsequent further movement. Let me bring up the, see here. Okay, we're good. So, anything else going on here up north? This older quake here along the Tonga Trench is a pretty deep one here from yesterday. Haven't really seen any further adjustment up here. All of that adjustment's taken place here across the plate boundary of the New Zealand area. So not a whole lot going on here today. Further out and about across the Papua New Guinea area, let's check out the Earthquake 3D globe. This is the area of quietness today, it looks like, roughly around the New Guinea area, eastward along this plate boundary. But if you remember, this area has filled in quite nicely over the last week. Today, a little bit quieter. All the movement today appears to be crunched up here across the Philippine area, or the Philippine plate. That's going to be this plate system right here. And that 6.2 struck on the western edge here of the Pacific plate and the interaction there with the Philippine plate. I'll show you guys here on the model. This area over here is a highly stressed area. It's kind of a, not really a microplate. It's a little bit bigger than a microplate, but it is being bunched up and squeezed and pushed around here by numerous large plates. This is a crunch zone, so to speak. If you look at all these arrows, they're kind of pointing in this general location from the northwest, from the southeast, up from the southwest here, all crunching this area. Very sensitive area in terms of dynamic stress out here with the plate tectonics at hand. Not surprising to see a 6-pointer out here. We can definitely see some larger scale movement. It's just been a little while. Most of the activity has been back over here across the western edge of the Filipino plate. But you know, when this pretty much gets locked and loaded here, and not quite ready to see any larger scale movement, we'll watch for earthquake activity out here, because it has been quiet out there on the eastern edge of the Filipino plate. Look at the last 7 days here of activity. A couple days ago we did see a 4.7, but fairly moderate earthquakes. This is probably the largest quake here, I believe, in the last 30 days in this area. 6.2, and that's really not a lot of earthquake activity here for this region in the last 30 days. This area can see a lot. So we'll continue to watch that. Looks like areas mostly upstream here around the Izu Trench is showing a little gap in seismic activity. Keep an eye on that area. Far as areas across the Java Trench, it looks like it's halted here across the center section of the Java Trench. A lot of times we'll watch for some migration working its way up here. I don't know if we're going to see that this round. In the past 30 days, we have seen some activity out here, as you can see, working its way up the plate boundary. All this activity across the Java Trench and Sumatra area stirred up following the larger events over here. Put a lot of strain out here. We did see that larger earthquake activity out here in the Java Sea earlier, back in March as well. But I'm not 100% certain that we're ready for any migration of activity. So watch areas backstream here where it's quiet, and of course some of these zones that are seeing seismic gap activity. Up into the China area, it looks like. Let me go back out of here and see what we got. Nothing showing up here on the USGS map, but it does look like maybe China or eastern Afghanistan up here seeing some activity, or even the Tajikistan area. A couple of 3s and some 4s out there, it looks like. Moderate movement out here across the area of Turkey. Now, USGS is reporting some of that quake activity. It looks like it's just offshore of Turkey, in the Greece area, around the Sea of Crete to be specific. 4.2 coming in a couple hours ago. There is a handful of smaller quakes in there as well. Nothing major going on out there for now. And out in the Atlantic, a 3.2 earthquake around the Azores area. The rest of the Atlantic looks pretty darn quiet. South America region seeing a handful of earthquakes out here as well in the 2 and 3 range. And let me bring this back down here. I wanted to make sure I got the earthquake 3D bells off, because that would be quite annoying to have them going off while I'm trying to do an update. All right, Middle America Trench, quite a few 3s going on here across the area. Just north of Costa Rica area. This region has definitely seen a pretty good uptick in movement. Nothing showing up here on the USGS map, but it's there. All right, taking a look at the states here. Now, California, goodness, is lighting up like crazy in the last hour. Maybe getting ready to see some larger scale activity out here. You guys see that? That's quite a bit of movement just for the last hour out here in the red circles. The key here will show you the last hour, last day. We don't have the last week on here yet. Don't need to, because that just adds too much of a clutter. But there's definitely some earthquake activity ramping up out here in Southern Cal. Nothing big. These are all small microquakes. Look at the 2.5 and above. Pretty much demolishes all of the quakes, except for a 2.5 up around the Walker, California area. But these microquakes you have to pay attention to, because the location is key into learning what's going on out here. A lot of stress across the entire plate boundary. Down here across the Elsinore Fault and also over here along the San Bernardino mountain range, seeing a little bit of small microquake activity. But in general, it looks like this whole area is stressed. Even some on the Garlock Fault shear zone right here, 1.4. So keep an eye here on Southern California. It's when you look at these little quakes here within a short time of each other across a broad area of the plate boundary, that means stress is definitely, well, we know stress is there, but it's building a little bit further out here across the California area. Things are starting to move around. All right, Bay Area, fairly, a couple small earthquakes out here. One off the coast of San Francisco, 1.2 from earlier this morning. Northern California, pretty quiet. There's that earthquake there in the Blanco fracture zone from yesterday. That's a 3.1. Into the Pacific Northwest, a handful of smaller quakes around Mount St. Helens once again, and up around Mount Rainier. Across Montana, they've seen a little shaking going on with a 3.4 near Lincoln, Montana. This earthquake was doesn't look like it was felt out there. Maybe one person reported feeling it. It did strike earlier this morning. Let's see here exactly the time frame. About 8 o'clock my time. So I'm sure people were up. Maybe maybe they just weren't paying attention. But a 3.4 could definitely be felt there within a broad area. And this earthquake was about a little bit less than 10 miles from the Lincoln, Montana area. So a little bit of movement going on up there. Yellowstone National Park, only 2 earthquakes being reported from yesterday. I was just looking at this map, and, it almost looks like there's earthquake activity locally, right, to the Yellowstone area, but that's not the case. There is the 6.2. That's a 6.2 earthquake there across the Mariana Trench. Yes, it's thousands of miles away from Yellowstone, but it showed up pretty nicely across a lot of these seismograph stations. Now, the 3-pointer there in Montana is going to be this more recent earthquake. You can still see that this is a distant earthquake away from the Yellowstone area. This more so, obviously. And if you look back even further, just about 24 hours ago, you guys know which one that one is, right? That is the Japan earthquake there from yesterday, that 5.9. Almost getting ready to drop off the 24-hour threshold map. So in about 20 minutes or so, that'll be gone. But just want to show you guys how sensitive this equipment is in terms of picking up ground motion. So if these are all working properly in terms of picking up earthquakes thousands of miles away, we would see something popping here at Yellowstone if it was going on, right? Well, it's not. There's nothing going on here at Yellowstone aside from these very small 2 little microquakes. Not a whole lot going on here, folks, at all. All right, further out and about here, Texas. Quite a bit of activity out in the oil fields once again. Oklahoma, 1 earthquake here on the New Madrid seismic zone. Seen a lot of fear-mongering going on across some videos out here saying how the eclipse is going to trigger the New Madrid seismic zone and create a bigger earthquake similar to back in 1811 or so when they had that upper 7, low 8 event. A series of earthquakes popped off here in 1811 and 1812. Yeah, that's 200 years ago, right? Got quite a bit of strain building up out here, but I don't think an eclipse is going to cause an earthquake out here. There's no doubt there's an association between the gravitational pull of the sun, the moon, and everything else out here in terms of the potential earthquake possibilities, but I don't see that, an eclipse causing that to trigger. In fact, the 2017 eclipse, I think, went something like this across the Oregon area and down through this area, and it didn't trigger the New Madrid seismic zone. I don't think it triggered any earthquakes out there, but sometimes the lunar position and whatnot can definitely affect the gravitational pull. I mean, we see it out here across the ocean, so why wouldn't it affect the plates out here, right? All right, let's see what else we got. Worldwide, a little bit of activity up here around the Bering Sea area in between Russia and the Alaska region. 3.7 from yesterday. Aside from that, typical movement up here across the Anchorage area and Alaska in general, down across the Hawaii area. Really not seeing anything major going on here. A couple smaller earthquakes stretching out towards the Loihi Seamount once again, but fairly deep. You can see that little fashion of migration here across the area. Really nothing major going on. No major changes there across that volcano for now. Iceland, I think Iceland is still in its continuous phase. Let me go back over here and see what we got for the latest information from Iceland, and then we'll check some cloud cover activity. This was put out today, so April 2nd, 2024. The land rise in Svartsengi has not been seen in the last few days, so it looks like we are lacking inflation, but continuing to see eruption here. That means that there's nothing blocking it down below. That magma is just freely flowing from the deeper areas to the reservoir up to the surface region. Let's check the live from Iceland site here. Double check. See if it's ongoing. I'm sure it is. I haven't checked it yet today. That's a super close-up. Looks like there's one over here. Let me go over to the webcam. Let's see here. So that's that one. Let me check the other view. Still looks active over here. Still 2 active vents. I'm seeing it. It's a little smoky out there with the wind blowing off towards the camera. Here's another view. It does look like we still have 1, 2, 3 active vents over here. This one's kind of facing away from it, but that's going towards the cameras. All that smoke is. But yeah, still ongoing here, folks. And the it doesn't look like anything has changed. They're talking about no inflation going on here. It says recently there have been wildfires around the lava bed, but there is a constant danger while the weather is dry. So a lot of that stuff burning, right? Some of the vegetation out there. Here is, it kind of looks like one of the latest maps here. This is going to be the lava depth in terms of buildup, right? You can see where the crater activity is taking place. Let's blow this up a little bit. And we're just basically stacking lava upon lava here, which is building up this land in elevation. Here's a thickness. It looks like 16 meters or so. And yeah, just kind of continuing out here. No advancement across the south. It's all just continuing to build up. Eventually, this should slow down, but with this continued free flow activity of magma from below up to the surface, it's hard to say how long this will last. But we're going well over 2 weeks now of the continued activity there across Iceland. Definitely an interesting event. Real quick glance at space weather, and then we'll get into the cloud cover possibilities for the eclipse. Look at this. We're down into the B flare category. That is called boring, right? Not a whole lot of activity here in terms of the solar flare chart. And that's because, well, look at the Earth-facing side of the sun. Not a whole lot going on. Our active regions are now way out on the other side of the sun, not in view of Earth. Therefore, look at these percentages. That is super duper low. This probably should be about 1% or so. I'm not for sure why it's up at 15. But 50% chance for C flare, X flare at 0 probably. And then M flare, it shows 15% chance, but it's probably less than that. Looking at the magnetogram here, it's probably not going to show a whole lot. These are the magnetic structures that any sunspots may harbor. And there's really not a lot on here, folks. These are all degrading sunspots. I really don't see anything new. It looks like this was marked here last night, just below 3624. But looking at that today shows that it's degraded even further. That's that sunspot region that was marked in terms of maybe looking for some new development. It looks a lot less today. Behind that, let's see what we got far as the eastern limb goes. I don't want to get kicked off. I don't want to have any issues going on here like I've been having recently. I've been under some type of attack recently with maybe either like a DOS attack or some type of packet prevention attack. I don't know. But I've often had my internet here just cut off for like 30 seconds. A lot of times it will kill the live stream. if it's long enough, but seems to do it when I'm talking about space weather. All right, yeah, we're gonna go check out the far side of the sun from the eastern limb. Let's see if we got anything updated here. This is updated. Here we go. So, way out here, look at the eastern limb here. Let me blow this up a little bit. There's what looks like a pretty large sunspot, larger even than the one that we had 3615, the culprit of many M flares recently. See this area back here? This is the eastern limb. This is a Earth-facing side of the sun. This is coming around. It does look fairly dynamic here, large. Let me see if we can see it on the magnetogram image. I'm guessing right about here. See that region right here? I don't believe it's this, but it looks like there's a larger region way out there that we'll have to watch in the coming days. See if it kicks up any, some better space weather in terms of flaring activity. Looks like we do have a potential for a G1 class storm here in a couple days. Let's see where that's coming from here. Pull up the latest data right here. I'm guessing it's from a small CME. Earth here in the green. We're looking for some type of CME that's going to be blasted off here. Let's see. Or maybe it's from a coronal hole. Really not seeing any CME. I'm guessing it's just going to be some solar wind stream here flowing in. Just some general flowing in, general solar wind flowing in. Let's see what he's talking about here. G1 stormy on April 4th, about 18 to 24 in the UTC time. Geomagnetic storming is likely on the 4th as negative polarity CHHSS effects continue. So it looks like maybe we'll see a little adjustment there in the magnetic field. We'll have to watch that. Right now it's showing that it could be up around some G1 class storming here on the 4th. We'll cover that a little bit later on, though, once we get a little bit closer. All right, so a lot of people wondering what's going on here with the weather here, folks. What's going on with the eclipse potential? Are we going to see it? Are we not? Make sure we got the latest update, which we do right here, the 12 Z time, which was put out today. This is the cloud cover from the GFS model. I'll show you the EMSC here in just a little bit. It's getting down there as far as the hours go, right? We're looking at about right here. Now, again, this is a GFS model, and it still shows quite a bit of cloud cover. It's been very consistent in terms of wanting to completely cover Texas and the other areas across the totality line. Now, there is a little breakage, it looks like, right about here around Arkansas into Indiana, Illinois region. Ohio's covered again. So cloud cover is going to be in the blue. As each day gets closer, it's going to get more and more accurate. So I think sometime towards the end of this week, we're going to get a pretty decent accuracy in terms of where cloud cover will be. Now, that's just the GFS. If we check out the Canadian model, these are the folks monitoring, they do their own forecasting here, similar to the EMSC, the European model. This is cloud cover on April 8th at, I need to go right about here, 18Z time. That's about the time of the totality. And look right here. That is a very close call. It shows 8. This one's a lot less aggressive in terms of cloud cover. I'm hoping this is the case. Very minimal cloud cover across a good portion of the totality line. Down here in Texas is going to be a little iffy. It looks like it's right there on that line of potential cloud cover. Now, I can't check the EMSC on this one because they want you to pay for it. But if we go and check out the GFS and we look at general moisture in the air, let's see if this one goes up here that far. It does. Composite reflectivity. That could show some storms going on here. Dew points have a lot to do with what's going on as far as the moisture goes. There's a lot of that cloud cover here, and this is going to be at roughly about the totality time frame. And what happens when you get a lot of dew point and moisture? You get all these the cloud cover and storms firing up out there. So it's going to be here's a hold on a second here. I want to go back to the precipitable water vapor. This is going to show. See, it's got that area coming in here to eastern Texas across the southern end of that totality line. And again, cloud cover associated with it with the GFS model shows this whole area just completely covered with cloud cover. So that's one. If we go over here to the windy map, we can utilize the EMSC model. The other site wants to charge $100 a year to use that. Here's the EMSC, and we're going to go to cloud cover out here. For the April 8th, I'm going to go 11 a.m. California time because that's going to be when the eclipse is at 1 something over here. So the EMSC model is showing, these kind of look like some high clouds here. And high clouds can definitely obscure the eclipse. Maybe not completely, but there's definitely a line of moisture coming in from the Gulf, along with all the high dew points and humidity, creating a lot of cloud cover out here. Now the GFS model, I think, is picking up on this other cloud cover. It's kind of a lighter gray color, and I believe those are the high clouds. Low clouds are going to be super. That's going to be some of these clouds coming in here. It looks like later that afternoon, a lot of low-level moisture coming in that will be fueling those storms. Cloud base, see, these are very high clouds, 28,000 feet. So you got a lot of high cloud coverage. That itself can obscure the totality out here for sure. It's almost better if you had some breakage in the low-level moisture. Visibility, of course, going to be clear at the surface. Temperatures around that time up in the upper 70s. See, here comes some of that rain, stuff like that, around the same time frame, 1 o'clock. So it's going to be an iffy thing here. It almost looks like some of the weather models are wanting to clear this area up slightly, aside from the GFS model. Similar to what I showed you guys there on the pivotal weather map with the Canadian model. When you go back out here and check out that time frame, it looks like it's starting to clear out here a little bit across this line. So I'm very hopeful that this low pressure system gets up and out of here really quickly. But look behind it. There's another low pressure system here. So it's not set in stone yet. I haven't canceled my plans. I'm not going to cancel my plans unless I see this get more aggressive for cloud cover on Friday. If we check this model on Friday and it looks like the GFS model is correct in terms of the amount of cloud cover out here, then I'm probably going to cancel because it doesn't make sense to go out there and see cloud cover and experience 4 minutes of darkness with cloud cover. So you'd have no shots of seeing the eclipse at all. You wouldn't be able to get any photography. So it's not worth it to me to go out there and cover that if it's going to be super cloudy like that. But we won't know 100% until it gets closer to this time frame. We're getting down there, though. Today's Tuesday, so I have a feeling this Friday we'll get 100% more accuracy in terms of what to expect out here for this event. So stay tuned for some further updates. Severe weather out here looks quite active across areas of Ohio, Indiana area, Illinois, parts of Illinois out there. So looks like there's a moderate risk out here. Pretty big deal. And a huge area of tornado potential today with a hatched region, 15% hatched area. That is kind of a big deal. I know yesterday they did see a couple tornadoes, but I think the main threat was the large hail yesterday. Today, they are forecasting more of a tornado threat. along with wind and hail. So today looks a lot more advanced in terms of that severe potential. Look at that. If you're out there across these areas today, those are some high population regions, almost 30 million people. Indianapolis, Columbus, Ohio, Nashville, Tennessee, all these areas in the hatched area. So just a heads up, folks, this is some crazy stuff. Let me see what we got here real quick across the area in terms of current activity. There is some tornado watches out there in the red box right here. Let's see what we got. Let me key up a station. We've got storms already starting to fire up. Tornado watch right here in the, let's see here, Kentucky, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Missouri, all these areas in tornado watches here. That's going to be the red, dark red lines. Here's the moderate risk category in the red. We already got these storms starting to fire up here, folks. Around Evansville area, it looks like. As of right now, we only have a flash flood watch and or a flash flood warning and a severe thunderstorm warning, it looks like. But as these things continue to cook in the afternoon, this will definitely turn into a potential severe weather event as forecasted here by the Storm Prediction Center. So just a heads up if you guys are out here today. Keep your weather radio on, definitely. Or local news on. I'm sure a lot of news agencies are covering this event today out there across that region. So stay safe. We'll continue to watch these cloud cover forecasts for the eclipse, later on next week, and hopefully we can get things to clear out. I think the main issue though is this subtropical jet, and I've showed it numerous times up here. That's already happening right now. It's fueling all the storms up towards the Midwest area and the Great Lakes region. Now the April 8th time period right about here. See? Look at that. We still got a decent subtropical jet joining hands here with the cutoff low. That's going to be a lot of cloud cover in general, right? We got a lot of storms going on here. Rain, a lot of precipitable moisture up in the air, water vapor. That's going to create cloud cover anyway at the higher levels, and that it just doesn't look good. But we'll continue to watch it. I haven't erased my plans yet. We won't know until we get much closer to that date. All right, we'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later on, folks. Have a good day. Have a good Tuesday. It's supposed to be about 80 degrees here in Northern California. I'm pretty excited. I'm going to go outside and continue some yard work. Got a little sunburnt yesterday from doing some yard work outside, but I'm going to go back at it today. Have a good day. We'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later on this evening, folks. Take care.